This episode of Beyond MD covers the final step in the buy, renovate, rent, and refinance method of real estate investing. So we are talking about refinancing today. Please note this will be the final real estate-oriented episode for the time being because we covered a lot on real estate and there are so many other topics that I need to learn about and I am really looking forward to sharing with you. I want to thank Quentin D'Souza for coming on Beyond MD and giving us so much useful information on the BRRRR method of real estate investing. All of Quentin's information is in the show notes. He is one of the most trusted voices in Canadian real estate investing and a mentor to many. So here's my conversation with Quentin on the refinancing process of the BRRRR method. Refinance. So let's say you purchase a property for $600,000.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the renovation costs to bring it to its best use, let's say you put in an extra $100,000. That means that the appraised value or the after repair value should be more than $700,000, right? To complete a successful BRRRR. Do I have this right?
Well, what you want to do is, so I'm going to coach this a little bit. When I first started doing it back in 2009, I would not do a property unless I got like 80% of my funds out. And that was a mistake, actually, because all of those properties would have cash flowed well, and I may have got like 20% out or 30% out, and they may have been a single, or like I would have got like 50% out, and it would have been a double. But I was always going for the home run, and the home run was trying to get the value that, my mortgage amount would be whatever my purchase price plus the cost of my renovations are, plus my holding costs. So like, for 600 plus 100, maybe let's say another 10K in holding costs, I would want to see that my property appraised value is somewhere in like the 750 range, right? So that way I get all my funds out. If I were, if I would be happy if I were to have a cash flow positive property at 700,000. Because maybe I don't get all my funds out, but this is a good asset. I've invested, or my partner has invested some of their money in it, and I'm still getting like returns that are in excess of 20% because I've got cash flow, I've got mortgage pay down, and I've got appreciation on an asset, right? So yes, that refinance you want to get as high as possible above the cost and the cost of the property and the renovations, but don't get too caught up with the home run, because like if you're cash flow positive and then sometimes you can be cash flow positive $500, $600, $700. That's a great asset, especially with interest rates like the way they are. Like that's a great asset. So why worry that you didn't get all your money out, right? You got half of it out.
So just to make sure people understand the numbers, if I just take my example though, so if I buy a property for $600,000, I have to put in 20% of that. So I'm putting in $120,000, right? And then I'm adding in $100,000, let's say, to create a basement suite. So now I've put in a total of $220,000. So let's say that the, after repair value, the bank comes in and they say, okay, this is worth $750,000. So I guess if I'm assuming kind of 80% loan to value, I guess that means that I'm going to be able to take out $150,000 of the $220 that I put in. So I'm left with $70,000 in the project. Is that correct?
Well, you have to remember, okay, so you bought it for $500 and you put $100. You bought it for $600.
Yeah.
You bought it for $600 and then you put $100 into it.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're into it for $700. So what you've done is you're getting a new mortgage though of $600,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So you have a new mortgage of $600,000, and that means that you have $100,000 left in it.
Okay. Understood.
Right?
Yep.
Because your new mortgage is $600. You bought it for $120. You put $100 into it, but you ended up with a new mortgage of $600,000. So that means you're going to be getting back. The key is, what was your mortgage at $600,000? Your mortgage at $600,000 was 20% of 6, so it was $480, right?
Yeah.
So you're getting $120 back. the new mortgage of 600.
Okay, I think I'm following this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Public math. I suck at public math.
So easiest way to think of it: what did you buy it for? How much did you put into it? Right. And then what is your new mortgage amount? That's how much you're left into the deal. That's the easiest way to think of it. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. So appraisal day. How do we prepare ourselves for appraisal day to make sure that we get paid so that we can kind of optimize the outcome?
Right. So appraisal, definitely, if you're looking to make sure that the rents are as high as you want them, that you rent out the units so that they're already at least rented. You don't actually have to have them occupied, but you should have leases in place, because at least that helps you to say that, yes, the rents are this, and I have my leases that say that this is what the rents are. You want to make sure that when the appraiser comes in, they can see the property, that the outside looks good. There aren't any major issues. You want to make sure that you have, what I like to do is I like to do a letter that says to the appraiser, this is what we've done to the property. Because oftentimes the appraiser will look at what the purchase price of the property was, but they won't know how much that you've spent on the actual renovations of the unit or of the property. So, and they may only see the fact that you have nice new walls, but they may not see that you moved from, aluminum wiring to copper wiring, or you had, something else behind the walls that they can't see. That you replaced the furnace. You did things to the unit that they can't tell. So you want to include, like I do an overview letter. I also provide comparables to the appraiser. So I say that this property over here was appraised for this much, this appraised for this much. I think that this property should appraise for this. And I actually say that. I've only had one appraiser that didn't want it, but I prepare an appraisal package. So I actually ask my realtor to give me comparables, and I include those comparables in a package, and I give it to them. I want to make sure that the place is clean, that it looks good, that it comes off well. But that appraisal package, I think, is great. Now, and that's all in the process of the appraisal itself, right? So that's when the appraiser is coming in. They've done the appraisal, and let's say you get back a number that you don't like, right? Because that happens. So you thought you were going to get 750, but you got back 700. And you're like, no, that can't be right. Look at these comparables. So you can go back to your bank and you can say, look, I don't agree with this appraisal. I will pay for another appraisal to happen. Not all banks will help you out with that, but some will even, pay for another appraisal. Wow. Because it's only somebody's opinion. This is what it is. An appraisal is only someone's opinion. I've had the same property appraised 3 times in 1 month and come up with a $50,000 difference.
Okay. Wow.
Right?
Okay.
And the market hadn't changed. It's the opinion of the appraiser, right? And I was actually doing a refinance on that property where we didn't do much to it anyways, but it was so interesting to see and have that. Now it cost me to do the appraisal 3 times because but it ended up that we refinanced a lot of our funds out of the property anyway, so it got paid for by the refinance.
Okay. So it sounds like you're there on the day of handing them the appraisal package.
That's what I get paid.
I understand, but
why would I not be there?
I've heard from some people though that I guess if you're there, if you're interjecting too much, obviously.
Investor?
I've just heard that some appraisers get very turned off by that. But obviously, you've done this enough times to understand that this is the way to go about it.
Yeah, this is the way. So there's we end up with appraisal package. We go in, we walk we actually point out to the appraiser all the things that we've done to the property. We're telling them, look at this, look at this. We talk about the area. We're actually, trying to point to the appraiser what we think are the benefits of the property, not just the features, right? And so that all helps as well as the package. And oftentimes you're helping them because you're doing the work for them. So if you're giving them comparables, you're actually doing a little bit of the work for them. So it's helpful. What maybe once I had an appraiser that didn't want the package, but I mean that was probably the same property that I got appraised 3 times anyways. But no, I've never had that issue. And you got to remember, in the buy, fix, refinance, and rent process, refinancing is when you get paid. That's the most important time to be there. That's the time when you get the actual after repair value. Why, like, this is the most important time, right? So that's where you want to walk through and sell it, right, to the appraiser. And then if you don't get what you want, then you go back and do it again, right? Because you can do that. Or you put a short-term mortgage on and you refinance in 6 months or a year again.
That's what I wanted to talk about to kind of wrap things up. So timing of the appraisal. When do you do it? Do you do it as soon as it's rented out? Probably depends on your mortgage. Maybe it depends on where the market's at. Talk to us about when to get the appraisal done.
Well, first, a lot of people make the mistake of the type of mortgage that they put on the property. If you're doing this strategy, you should be in a variable rate product.
Yeah, 100%.
That's it. You shouldn't be in anything else, because what ends up happening with a variable rate product is that you usually pay 3 months interest as a penalty, and that's just part of your carrying cost. Then you can refinance the property either with the same bank or a different bank. Another strategy is, if you didn't get the appraisal value that you want, you can go to a different bank and get another, get it refinanced again with another institution and see if you get a higher rate. But having doing a variable rate or a 1-year term is probably the most I would do. I wouldn't probably do a 1-year term. I would just stick to variable, just so that I could refinance the property quickly, because that's the goal. Remember, time and money, it's the same thing. So being able to refinance it quickly is important. So financing is the key here. Sometimes you may even put like a private mortgage on the front end and refinance it quickly, because a private mortgage allows you a lot more flexibility than one of the banks, or maybe an alt lender at the beginning, and then you quickly refinance into an A lender because you've got all the work done or whatever needed to be done. I found that that's happened to me before, where I wasn't able to get a mortgage with an A lender because of the condition of the property. And then I had to do a private or like a B lender, just because they would be the only ones that would lend on it, with the understanding that within 12 months I could end the mortgage at any time, and then get into into an A lender, and then be able to get that done.
My last question for you is, Quentin, you're a professional investor. It sounds like you like the variable mortgage, but right now a lot of people are asking, are you variable across the board, or do you have any fixed mortgages?
So, for some people, you have to understand what your risk tolerance is. And if you're not risk tolerant, put yourself in a 2-year fixed mortgage or a 1-year fixed mortgage and feel comfortable. You know what? We have 10-year fixed mortgages in Canada. If you think you're that concerned, put yourself in a 10-year fixed. But mortgages or interest rates, if you put it on a chart for the last 50 years and you look at what it looks like that. It doesn't look like this. It looks like that. Okay, so it's going downwards. So if you want to, if you're not comfortable with a variable rate, then I suggest a 1 or 2 year term. I have a number of variable rates, but I have lots of cash flow on my assets, so it's not a really good. I'm not as concerned as a lot of people if it goes up 100 or 200. I've got one triplex that cash flows $1,500 a month. I mean, even if that rent goes down $300 or $400 because the interest rate changes, it's not going to affect my bottom line, right? Oh. So you can't ask me, because my risk tolerance is different than somebody who's just buying a property for the first time, and they have $100 in cash flow, and they're worried that interest rates are going to go up another %. In that case, get a 2-year term. and then you can reevaluate where you are in 2 years. I just don't want to get locked in for a 5-year term, because what may happen is there's a lot of signs that are showing that we're going to go into a recession, or if not, we're already in one. The only thing that's really stopping us from doing that right now is the employment rate. But everything else is pointing in the different direction. It's very possible that what's going to happen is the Bank of Canada is going to overcorrect with these higher interest rates, and we're going to be put in a position where they're forced to change direction. Very possible. So I myself don't want to be stuck into a longer term mortgage, like 5 years, if that happens, because I want to take advantage of that up and down. There's a couple of studies. I'll send you the books for afterwards. You can add in that studies interest rates over time. I have a huge library. I read at least 2 or 3 books a month and listen to a book as well. I'll send you. He's a York University professor, Malosher. He talks about variable rates versus fixed rates. If you want to look at like studies over time, historical studies, it's a great book to get your mind through what that looks like. But for me, I mean, I'm still
what's
variable.
that book called? What's that called? The book?
What is it called?
If you don't have it, Quentin, don't worry about it. Don't worry about
It's on my bookshelf. I can grab it, but it'll take me a minute to.
I'll put it in my conclusion of the show. But so you're variable basically, and you've explained kind of why that is and why that makes sense for you.
But in apartment buildings, which is different, I'm in longer term fixed for the most part, unless I'm really in a point where I think I'm going to refinance the property in the next year or two. Then I might be in 1 or 2 year terms.
Quentin, thank you so much. There is so much valuable information here in what you've shared. I think there's a lot of great pieces of information that people can learn from and act upon. So I just want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for making yourself so available to educate people. You're clearly passionate about this and very knowledgeable. And any final words that you want to share with the listeners?
Well, if anybody wants to get in touch with me, they can. Yeah. There's you can go to quentindesouza.com, and I'm happy to have a conversation for 15 minutes around real estate investing or anything that you're interested in along those lines, and hopefully I can help you. So that, but it's only 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And how else can people follow you? You're on Instagram. Yeah. You're on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I'm Quentin D'Souza on LinkedIn, QMan REI on Instagram, and I've got like a link tree thing I can send you with all the social media stuff that's there. So that's probably the easiest one to go to and see all my social media stuff. And books on Amazon. The club, whatever.
We will put all of that, your books, social media, ways to reach you. We'll put that all in the show notes. But Quentin, thanks again. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime.
Okay, I'm going to try and redeem myself from that previous shameful demonstration in public math. So how does a BRRRR work? So let's say you go and buy a property for $600,000. That will require a down payment of $120,000, leaving a mortgage of $480K. So now let's say you go and do a renovation on the property. Let's say you add a suite and that costs you $100,000. So now you put in $120,000 on the down payment. You're adding $100,000 of renovations, so you've put in $220,000 into the property. So then you go to rent it, then you go to refinance it. Hopefully you refinance it at a much higher level. Let's say it's worth $750,000 in the eye of the lending financial institution. Well, they will give you a mortgage of $600,000. The initial mortgage you would have had on the property was $480K, so you pull out $120K and you're left with just $100,000 in the property, which is what the reno cost you. Hopefully that makes some more sense. So I know Quentin D'Souza really values how he spends his time, so I am truly honored that he sat down with me for that duration. We sat down in October to record these episodes, and I took up almost 2 hours of the guy's time. I mean, I probably stretched it out a bit more than I should have, but thankful nonetheless. So the spring market in real estate in Canada will be an interesting one because we will see what will happen to the demand side of the equation as investors keep an eye on what the Bank of Canada does. And then we'll also see what will happen to listing, so the supply side. And I myself, I certainly don't foresee any interest rate cuts until well into 2024. And for anybody wanting to learn more about interest rate cycles, I encourage you to visit a website called tradingeconomics.com. You can plug in a time range and you can look at the trends in the overnight rate. Quentin is completely right that the overall trend is down, but we're in a significant hiking cycle. And once interest rates tend to peak, history shows that they will tend to peak for up to 2 years at times. So I'm in the 2024 camp well into 2024. I don't think any cuts are coming anytime soon. And for those of you who are getting more interested in real estate and are keeping an eye on the market, maybe contemplating a BRRRR, good luck to you. All the best. I myself, for now, I'm sitting tight because of my last investment. That's keeping me busy enough. I feel like I have enough real estate for the time being. I always keep an eye, but I want to continue to learn about other things finance. There will be a lot of learning happening this year, and I'm really excited to share it all with you. So if you enjoy what you're hearing, please follow, subscribe, connect with me on social media and BeyondMD at gmail.com. Reach out anytime, and I'd be so grateful if you can share this podcast with your network. Until next time, we'll see you in a few weeks with a really interesting physician interview. Stay well, stay savvy.